Message of His Holiness Pope Benedict XVI for the 21st World Day of the Sick, 11th of February, 2013. Go and do likewise. Luke 10:37. Dear brothers and sisters, on 11th of February 2013, the liturgical memorial of Our Lady of Lourdes, the 21st World Day of the Sick will be solemnly celebrated at the Marian Shrine of Altoting. This day represents for the sick, for healthcare workers, for the faithful, and for all people of goodwill, a privileged time of prayer, of sharing, of offering one's sufferings for the good of the Church, and a call for all to recognize in the features of their suffering brothers and sisters the holy face of Christ, who by suffering, dying, and rising has brought about the salvation of mankind. On this occasion, I feel especially close to you, dear friends, who in healthcare centers or at home are undergoing a time of trial due to illness and suffering. May all of you be sustained by the comforting words of the Fathers of the Second Vatican Council. You are not alone, separated, abandoned, or useless. You have been called by Christ and are His living and transparent image. So as to keep you company on the spiritual pilgrimage that leads us from Lourdes, a place which symbolizes hope and grace, to the shrine of Altoting, I would like to propose for your reflection the exemplary figure of the Good Samaritan. The Gospel parable recounted by St. Luke is part of a series of scenes and events taken from daily life by which Jesus helps us to understand the deep love of God for every human being, especially those afflicted by sickness or pain. With the concluding words of the parable of the Good Samaritan, "Go and do likewise," the Lord also indicates the attitude that each of His disciples should have towards others, especially those in need. We need to draw from the infinite love of God through an intense relationship with Him in prayer, the strength to live day by day with concrete concern, like that of the Good Samaritan, for those suffering in body and spirit who ask for our help, whether or not we know them and however poor they may be. This is true not only for pastoral or healthcare workers, but for everyone, even for the sick themselves, who can experience this condition from a perspective of faith. It is not by sidestepping or fleeing from suffering that we are healed, but rather by our capacity for accepting it, maturing through it, and finding meaning through union with Christ, who suffered with infinite love. Various fathers of the Church saw Jesus Himself in the Good Samaritan, and in the man who fell among thieves they saw Adam. Our very humanity, wounded and disoriented on account of its sins. Jesus is the Son of God, the one who makes present the Father's love, a love which is faithful, eternal, and without boundaries. But Jesus is also the one who sheds the garment of His divinity, who leaves His divine condition to assume the likeness of men, drawing near to human suffering, even to the point of descending into hell, as we recite in the Creed, in order to bring hope and light. He does not jealously guard His equality with God, but, filled with compassion, He looks into the abyss of human suffering so as to pour out the oil of consolation and the wine of hope. The Year of Faith which we are celebrating is a fitting occasion for intensifying the service of charity in our ecclesial communities, so that each one of us can be a good Samaritan for others, for those close to us. Here I would like to recall the innumerable figures in the history of the Church who helped the sick to appreciate the human and spiritual value of their suffering, so that they might serve as an example and an encouragement. Saint Therese of the Child Jesus and the Holy Face, an expert in the scientia amoris, was able to experience in deep union with the Passion of Jesus the illness that brought her to death through great suffering. The Venerable Luigi Novaresi, who still lives in the memory of many throughout his ministry, realized the special importance of praying for and with the sick and suffering, and he would often accompany them to Marian shrines, especially to the Grotto of Lourdes. Real Follero, moved by love of neighbor, dedicated his life to caring for people afflicted by Hansen's disease, even at the world's farthest reaches, promoting, among other initiatives, World Leprosy Day. Blessed Teresa of Calcutta would always begin her day with an encounter with Jesus in the Eucharist, and then she would go out into the streets, rosary in hand, to find and serve the Lord and the sick, especially in those unwanted, unloved, uncared for. St. Anna Schaffer of Mindelstetten, too, was able to unite in an exemplary way her sufferings to those of Christ. Her sickbed became her cloister cell, and her suffering a missionary service. Strengthened by daily communion, she became an untiring intercessor in prayer and a mirror of God's love for the many who sought her counsel. In the Gospel, the Blessed Virgin Mary stands out as one who follows her suffering Son to the supreme sacrifice on Golgotha. She does not lose hope in God's victory over evil, pain, and death, and she knows how to accept in one embrace of faith and love the Son of God who was born in the stable of Bethlehem and died on the cross. Her steadfast trust in the power of God was illuminated by Christ's resurrection, which offers hope to the suffering and renews the certainty of the Lord's closeness and consolation. Lastly, I would like to offer a word of warm gratitude and encouragement to Catholic healthcare institutions and to civil society, to dioceses and Christian communities, to religious congregations engaged in the pastoral care of the sick, to healthcare workers' associations, and to volunteers. May all realize ever more fully that the Church today lives a fundamental aspect of her mission in lovingly and generously accepting every human being, especially those who are weak and sick. I entrust this 21st World Day of the Sick to the intercession of Our Lady of Graces, venerated at Altoting, that she may always accompany those who suffer in their search for comfort and firm hope. May she assist all who are involved in the apostolate of mercy, so that they may become good Samaritans to their brothers and sisters afflicted by illness and suffering. To all, I impart my most willing apostolic blessing. From the Vatican, 2nd of January, 2013. God bless and heal our beloved Holy Father. Pope Francis says he is still in the hospital in Gemelli and has suffered from 2 instances of deep trial in his health today over the past 24 hours or so. So we continue to pray for full restoration of his body and of his person to the Domus Santa Marta